Well, I don't know if you are feeling like me, but I feel like we're really close to a black swan event. You know, one of those situations that you just wake up and everything's going chaotic. You know, I've been monitoring really close this whole war with, you know, Iran and Israel that's about to touch off, supposed to touch off by Monday. And then Friday, we had one of the worst stock market debacles we've seen in a long time, when unemployment went up way faster than everybody thought it was going to be, because all those numbers are fixed. You know, they just tell us what we want to hear. The stock market fell 800 points at one time Friday, and that is nuts. I think it wound up closing down about 1.8%, but at one point it was like 2.5, 2.2% down on the day, and Intel just absolutely crashed itself. What was it, 20 something percent? That is absolutely nuts. I've been talking about these things for a while now, and it seems like everybody just goes around thinking everything's fine. Well, it's fine until it's not. And when these things happen, they happen fast, and it catch everybody off guard. I've been talking a lot here on the channel about the impending commercial real estate debacle. You know, if you're looking to buy real estate commercial, these guys that bought properties 2020 to 2022, these guys are going to be in a real hurt. They got 3 to 5 year bubble notes that they've got to refinance, and we're coming up on that term, and interest rates have just made cash flow non-existent for them if they refinance at these rates. And unless we see a government bailout for these guys, I don't see how they're going to make it work. But that's the thing with these black swan events, is they come out of nowhere, like COVID, or like Lehman Brothers, or some of these Bear Stearns. We wake up and then all of a sudden the market is crashing. Government swoops in and fixes it. But they have to have these massive black swan events for the taxpayer to start screaming enough that these politicians feel like they can get away with bailing them out. So it's like 10 o'clock, I'm editing this video, and the Japanese stock exchange, the Nikkei, is in full collapse. It's like down 6%. I think they halted it. I'm gonna throw the chart right here. It is wild. All this stuff is coming all at once. And right when I was filming this video, same way last week when I started filming these videos, it's just that all the check boxes started to line up to be like, uh-oh, something's happening. Like, something doesn't make any sense. None of this makes any sense. Like, why isn't anybody saying anything? Am I the only one saying, like, I don't know about this? Even Bitcoin's down right now. That's wild too. Usually you would think if there was a flight to safety, the world was collapsing, and you would go to Bitcoin. I don't know. Everything's just wild right now. And I'm really monitoring the Iranian thing because, believe it or not, that is a big place. And I remember when we were in Iraq looking at Iran and trying to think about invading that place. Nah, that is way bigger than you would think. Like, that, there's a lot more that would go on to that than the average person would think. It would be a very complex operation. I really feel like news is going to switch to more of the YouTuber, social media type broadcaster, because the media is just so bad right now. They don't report anything that is actually happening. And it seems like the only people that are actually telling the truth out there is guys like me on YouTube that just said, you know what, I've seen enough, I've got to talk about it. And that's what I'm trying to do here on this YouTube channel. You know, I've been talking about real estate for a long time, and this is something I've been thinking about a lot. I've been preparing, been telling Samantha to prepare. You know, if we woke up one day and our debit cards just didn't work, what would we do? And I feel like that actually happened with CrowdStrike very recently, where all of a sudden, if you're in the airport, you were stuck. If you were trying to use your debit card at some institutions, it wasn't working. We saw, massive layovers. If you were stuck in the airport, there was no food. It was absolutely crazy. Airbnb, well, they had problems. Everybody had problems, and it was just like one of those all of a sudden uh-oh events. But you didn't hear about it on the news. You didn't hear it in the media. You see, like, these things are just not covered. If they don't want it to be part of the agenda, they just won't cover it. And here on YouTube, they'll actually send you a little thing in your YouTube inbox don't talk about these things. Like when the Ukraine happened, they actually said we weren't allowed to talk about the Ukraine. And that happened for a while. And now finally people were able to kind of talk about it. But that's how they keep the narrative the way they want it to be. I'm out here in Navy Point. Look at the water. It's a beautiful place. It's literally like Pensacola's hidden secret. It's just awesome. There's a 4-mile trail to walk on. Goes all the way around the neighborhood. Open to the public. You've seen the media narrative change. It went from, the assassination, Biden couldn't remember anything, he drops out of the race, and every time it pivoted, you totally didn't hear anything about what just happened. Like the assassination attempt just kind of fell off the radar. Biden just fell off the radar. Now they're pushing this war with Israel and Iran, and that's all over the place. And another carrier strike group going to the Mediterranean, the Persian Gulf. It's like one thing, pivot one thing after another, and it always sets you up for that one thing you're not looking for. If you pay attention, you'll see what is actually going on. And when it comes to real estate, nobody's talking about the massive amounts of houses that are coming on the market right now. There are houses galore. I talked about that in my last video, and I'm going to keep talking about it so you can stay informed. I'm trying to educate y'all out there on my viewpoints on some things, and maybe something is maybe there's that one thing that this can help you with that maybe, in my thought process melts with your thought process, and maybe we learn something from each other. I learned a lot from the comment section, and I think comment down below your thoughts on this, and am I going the right direction, or do you have another direction that might be more of what is going on? We're seeing tropical storm / Hurricane Debbie about to hit Florida, and if we needed one more thing to set us over the edge in Florida with the insurance problem, it's another hurricane. And it seems like as soon as a hurricane even looks towards Florida, it's a state of emergency. And if you don't know, they shut down insurance the moment it gets towards the Gulf or has a little pool squiggly noodle into the Gulf. They just shut down buying insurance, and it shuts down real estate and for those days because you can't close because there's no insurance to bond. I tell you, evictions are starting to creep up. I think we're at 30% now with evictions, and the middle class is hurting, and nobody wants to talk about these things. It seems like I walk around, I'm like, why doesn't anybody say all this credit card debt is here? We've got student loans coming in now, and $1,000 a month car payment is the norm. And I just look like daycare is wild, y'all. When Samantha got pregnant, we got on the waiting list. 2.5 years later, we still haven't heard from these schools. And not to mention the expense on them is astronomical. And if you work, they cancel daycare all the time. And it just shuts down the whole city. When schools shut down now in Florida, every time it gets a little cold or there's a rainstorm coming, the whole city shuts down because nobody has daycare. But yet they want you to keep paying for these astronomical groceries, astronomical everything. Insurance, my insurance went up 30%. I don't know about y'all. And it's like, how do they expect you to keep doing this? Samantha was just telling me a while ago how expensive food is, the groceries. As a man, I don't really notice that because she does all the shopping. But just for steaks, how much that has gotten, chicken, any of the things that we normally eat at the grocery store, eggs, milk, if you've got kids, baby formula, it's astronomical. And, newsflash, when they say inflation is slowing, it doesn't mean prices are going to go back to the way they were 2-3 years ago. No, it just means they're going to go up slower. And the only way these politicians know to get out of this is to start printing money again. And you see them already talking about lowering interest rates again and creeping them back down, because that's all the arrows they've got left to keep the wheels coming off this market. Stock market's already starting to break. It's been rolling over for a while now. Real estate is starting to crack because nobody's buying houses, and the whole NAR settlement, come on, y'all. These people are absolutely nuts. Who's running this place? There's no way that Congress does not step in and fix the real estate agent problem. And as a real estate agent, there's a serious problem with transactions that nobody wants to talk about. And they were arguing this a while ago on Facebook about how problematic transactions are. Nobody knows what forms to use because NAR doesn't even know the guidance coming out from FAR and all these different realtor associations. It's all different across the board, and nobody can civilly understand this. The attorneys, they don't even know yet because it starts on the 17th of August this month. We started July 17th. And I can tell you, it's a complete mess. Nobody wants to talk about it though. It's like nobody talk about it because it's like an unwritten rule. You know, realtors like to walk around like, I'm a realtor. Nobody talk about this because it's a complete mess, but we're just going to do whatever NAR says. And I really think that the state legislatures are going to have to step in and be like, you know what? We're either busting this up or we're going to regulate it because it's a complete mess. 1 in 4 sellers in real estate right now, single family homes, are starting to slash prices. And, you know, I always said, don't ever mix up a price reduction, slashing prices, with profit taking. But I think we're slowly getting into that problematic area. Some of these houses have been sitting 30, 40, 60 days now. Now you've got, you know, so many other problems. But I think the true thing to talk about right now, the Black Swan event, is these large institutional investors in single family homes and mostly commercial real estate. Commercial real estate, I can't say it enough, $1 trillion has to be refinanced this year, and it ain't gonna cash flow. The book value of these banks are gonna go through the floor, and I don't know why Wall Street hasn't figured this out yet, and there's not a massive short on top of some of these REITs. There were syndicators that are, I know, local syndicators, that I told a year or two ago when they were buying these bad deals and these really bad cap rates. I was like, why are y'all syndicating these deals? They make no sense. They don't cash, they barely cash flow. I was like, if the insurance moves at all, like, you're in the red. And same way with like insurance on short-term rentals. Most of the people out there that have rentals, and especially short-term rentals, and I would say fourplexes, sixplexes, if they really did their books the way they should, they wouldn't be making any money. All tax plays, all just trying to get, you know, that depreciation off of them. Because when they were buying them 2-3 years ago, 4 years ago, when this all started, I was like, the rent rates don't match. Like, none of this matches. There's no way they cash flow. And they're starting to pay the piper. And I had a buddy the other day, he's got 30 houses, and his insurance tripled on some of them. And his whole portfolio is ready to collapse because he wasn't betting on insurance going through the roof. And when these insurance companies get ready to just lose an area, just get out of the area, they just start dropping you for random stuff. And then when you renew, jack it up so much, it's not worth for you to keep it. I'm selling a couple houses right now for some people that the insurance just went through the roof and there's nothing they can do about it. What I'm saying is the math just doesn't math. Like, none of this makes any sense, and I feel like we're in a middle-class apocalypse. The middle class is being squeezed by taxes, food, grocery, mortgages, housing prices, and they're the ones that are the backbone of the nation. And they're the ones that the government doesn't seem to want to help out at all anymore. When they implode a market, the home owners market, they're doing it from every predictable angle right now that could hurt the middle class. It's like one thing after another. It just seems planned, between 5% caps on rents, to home insurance, to mortgages, to the grocery store, to just one thing after another. And it's sad that the politicians, they know that they can bleed the middle class and pay for all these problems. We got potholes everywhere, but you know what? They want to go start another war. And as somebody who went to the last one, I realized this is all just a money-making game. They're taking all that liquidity they printed over the last 3 or 4 years. You know what, 30-40% of all the dollars ever created were created in the last 2020, 2021, 2022. And they're throwing it into these wars, try to get it out of the country. The only way they know how to slow down inflation, because it's crazy. In conclusion, you might be saying, well, where's the positive in all this? I'm just trying to check the box of all the things that are out there and say, in my opinion, I'm going to start looking for real estate deals here pretty soon, into the winter, into the into the January, February, go start seeing deals pop up. A lot of people are going to get caught upside down. And interest rates, home insurance, things like that. The government created a situation that put a lot of people in a bad spot. Home ownership, like, I think this is pushing all of us into a renter nation. It's just one thing after another. It's just, you know what? I don't want to deal with the rising maintenance costs. I don't want to deal with the rising home insurance problem. I don't want to deal with contractors stealing my money when I pay them to build a set of stairs. Stay vigilant. Do not get caught up in what the media is trying to puppet you into, because something is coming next. Something, I don't know what it is. I just know that there are so many block checks out there for something to go. And we know that the federal government is broke, and they've got to figure out how to manufacture more dollars to pay off all this debt they've got. A nation never pays down its debt. It just refinances it. And that's what we're going to see here, but we don't know what it's going to be. And I say, look to the horizon, stay vigilant, and I want you to comment down below. Send me your ideas, comment your ideas down below. What's going to happen next? What are we going to see? What is real estate going to do? Is it going to implode, like I've kind of been saying? Now, we got to define what implode means, or explode, or plummet, or whatever you want to call it. Goldman Sachs says 15%, 20%. I don't think we'll go any further past that. They will print money before they do that. No politician wants that to happen. But you got to understand, if they do print money, it's going to make the cost of everything go up even higher. I call that the reverse bubble. Somebody in the comment section said, you lost me with the reverse bubble. Now, what I'm talking about is hyperinflation, that when you try to fix a financial problem by making more money, you make the cost of milk go up, you make the cost of insurance go up, you make the cost of lawyers go up, you make the cost of everything go up. And what does that do? It separates the haves and have-nots exponentially. Those that have assets, they get richer. Those that don't, they get poorer. I truly believe we got to vote better. And I know I was scared when I heard that there was Russians off the coast of Cuba. Everybody says, oh, that's just a normal cruise. Nah, they were bold. And they would have never done that 50 years ago. They would have never tried something like that. And then all of a sudden you're hearing about the Chinese and the Russians flying off the coast of Alaska. They would have never done that before. They would have never done it. But that's all I got, everybody. I hope you guys have a beautiful, wonderful rest of the weekend. And it's all my opinions on this. Something's coming. Something's going to happen. I'm saying all cash, and I'm just going to wait for it to happen and see if I can benefit from the chaos. And you know, if you're planning to sell your house, I feel like now's the time, because you're seeing the institutional investors starting to sell. If you're trying to buy, well, buy right. Make sure you have a good agent that knows how to bid in that 10-15% underneath the price of what we think, and you'll probably wind up being okay, and it'll kind of cancel itself out after 7 or 8 years. And if you plan to live there forever, well, it's going to be kind of a moot point. But remember, we're going to get through this. There's going to be an end to this election season, which is wild, and we're going to move on to greener pastures. We just got to think smart, think together, and figure out what our next move is. And that's my plan. Stay positive, be prepared, and just react to what happens next. But stay safe, everybody.